our essential pay and working conditions for SAM's officers. We're going to get started in just a moment, so bear with us. For SAM's officers, we're going to get started in just a moment, so bear with us. Is that you, Sal? For SAM's officers, we're going to... There we go. Again, for folks who are joining, bear with us. This is our town hall that we're doing on working conditions and essential pay for our security members that are members of 32BJ that work at DCPS and DC government buildings. So just bear with us a moment. We're going to give everyone an opportunity to join. Again, welcome. This is Lewis Davis, union representative. Just bear with us a moment. We're going to give folks an opportunity to join. This is the SEIU 32BJ CAD Security Chapter Town Hall for our DCPS and DC government members with Councilmember Robert White on essential pay and safe working conditions. Just bear with us for a moment.
Can you actually email me the full names of the participants? Because I have to.
Sure.
Okay.
Sounds like a Trump rally.
Again, we're asking folks just bear with us a moment if you're joining us. Thank you for joining. I'm Lewis Davis, union representative for SEIU 32BJ. This is our town hall on essential pay and safe working conditions for our DCPS and DC government members. Just bear with us a moment while we allow your coworkers and colleagues to join us. Thank you. Again, we're going to start in just a few minutes. I want to thank you for joining. I'm Lewis Davis, union representative for SEIU 32BJ. This is our town hall that we're having discussing essential pay and working conditions with Councilmember Robert White and our union leadership. Just bear with us a few more minutes while we give your colleagues an opportunity and fellow members to join. We'll start very shortly.
Awesome.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started. I want to thank you all for joining. Again, my name is Louis Davis. I am one of the union representatives for SEIU Local 32BJ. And today we're having a town hall for our security officers that protect DC public schools and DC government buildings. We're joined by three of our shop stewards who are incredible leaders in the shops. We're joined by our Vice President, Jaime Contreras, and we're joined by our guest, Councilmember Robert White. So good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Louis Davis. I'm a lead field representative for 32BJ in Washington, DC. I'm so glad you joined us today. And I want you to know that we're all eager to hear from our union's leadership and from our fellow shop stewards and from the council member. Just to get things off and to set context in a place in time and now, we have been dealing with a pandemic that has ravaged our membership, that has touched us to the core. We have our members who protect DC government buildings. They keep our elected officials safe in high profile buildings like the Wilson Building and the Reeves Center. They keep our children safe in DC public schools. They keep our unhoused population in DC safe in a variety of homeless shelters. And we keep Washingtonians safe, where the first responders, when someone has an emergency in a government building, we're constantly de-escalating in high schools, in conflicts, in middle schools. And as we have worked hard to keep everyone safe who's a district resident visiting a district building or a district staff person, what we're talking about today is who keeps us safe. So we will talk about our essential pay efforts and our efforts for safe working conditions. But more than that, in a place, time, and now, we are also Black and Brown people that go back to Black and Brown communities. And by doing so, our union has been very clear with where we stand into police brutality. In particular, our vice president has issued a statement on where we stand as a union in the Capital Area District. So keep that in mind. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce our fearless leader, Vice President Jaime Contreras.
Thank you, Louis, and thank you, 32BJ family, for joining again. Councilmember White, it's always awesome to have you talk to our members. Again, my name is Jaime Contreras. I'm a vice president for SEIU 32BJ, and I run the DC, Maryland, and Virginia district for the union. Your union, 32BJ, which we call the Capital Area District. So when you hear CAD, that's what it means. I really am hopeful, and I'm praying that, as we have this conversation, your families and your loved ones are safe and healthy during this painful crisis that we're living. I want to really start this conversation by acknowledging that, we're all living in really painful and unprecedented times in our country and in the world, for that matter, especially for union members, but also for all workers and working class people in this country. In my way of looking at things, we're combating three viruses. One is COVID-19, which we're all very familiar with. The other one is structural racism, which we have been living in this country since it was founded for over 400 years. And the other one is Trump. All those crises are ripping through our nation, our states, and our cities. But as a union, we cannot and we will not be silent on any of these fronts, whether it's coronavirus, structural racism, or the president who threatens to, tear apart our communities, our towns, our states, and Trump, even the world. So we're not gonna be silent during this crisis. So, we're living extremely difficult times as a union. As you guys know, I want to really take a moment to recognize the bravery that all of you, members of 32BJ, security officers, cleaners, commercial office, airport workers, and the other folks who go to work every day to carry out essential work and keep our community safe, our buildings clean, and at the same time, you're putting your families and your communities at risk at the brutal hands of the coronavirus, but also, of law enforcement brutality. So, in our union in 32BJ, we have 175,000 members on the East Coast, 20,000 plus in this area. We have lost 130 members to COVID. That's more than quadruple what we lost in 9/11 in the Twin Towers. In this area, we have lost 13 members to COVID-19 in the last 3 months. And 2 of those are security officers who work in DC government buildings. So, I think now more than ever, Americans are really seeing what essential work truly is and truly means. It's medical workers, first responders, but yes, it's also security officers, it's cleaners, it's porters, it's doormen, it's airport workers like you, and security officers like you who are in the front lines every day providing essential services in this area and throughout the country. So, the truth is, these are challenges that are not too far from each other. We live under a broken system that allows for financial disparity and discrimination of people of color. The same workers that we applaud every day for their selfless and heroic work of providing the services that you're providing during this pandemic are the same people that are being criminalized, persecuted, and even murdered by police just because of the color of their skin. And we are not going to be silent to any of these crises. But as Dr. King once said, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it does bend towards justice. So I'll leave it there. I do want to thank you for being on this call, Louis, for your leadership, and Councilmember White for all that you do in our city. We're lucky to have people like you in local government. So I think now it goes to you, Councilmember.
I want to thank you all first for inviting me. Thank Jaime and Louis in particular for putting this together, for your partnership, always really keeping me informed on the issues that are facing your members and working with me in the council to address those issues. To the rest of the members, shop stewards, and others, I want to thank you for the work that you do. As Jaime said, keeping our buildings here in the district, especially our government buildings, safe and clean. I want you to know that, as we try to figure out you know, our response and even operations status as a government, I'm keeping you in the work that you do squarely in the forefront. In fact, we had an administrative meeting of the council members 2 days ago where we were discussing the idea of reopening the council. And I said, you know, we got to think about what reopening the council, what the impact that that would have on our security guards and the folks who clean the buildings, because even if we find a way to social distance in the offices, people are still going to need to come in the buildings. There's still going to need to be security screenings. And, you know, to the point that that's already been made, not only does this impact you, but you all, many of you like us, you know, have family members you live with, whether it's kids or, you know, older folks. Some of you might be vulnerable populations yourselves, but we got to be, you know, take that very seriously. And, you know, I think it's one of the reasons we've seen so many more deaths from COVID-19 for people of color, especially Black and Brown people, is because we are many of these frontline jobs being exposed ourselves, exposing our families. And we got to make sure that we reduce that danger as much as possible, but also do everything that we can to keep you all safe and to keep your family safe, because we don't want to see preventable illnesses and most especially preventable deaths. So, you know, I appreciate this opportunity really to hear from you all about the issues that you're having, the opportunity for us to work together to try to figure out how to solve some of these issues. But my goal is to do everything I can to help keep you safe and protected as you do work that keeps us safe and protected.
Thank you, Councilmember White. We're going to hear next from our shop steward who has been in the unit since the very beginning, SPO Hatton, Special Police Officer Hatton. She's going to talk to us about the challenges of getting to work with limited transportation and share her story with Councilmember White.
Hello, how you doing, Councilmember White?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Hi, Amy Lewis, everyone that's on with us. I've been with the union since '08, and you know, they have really backed us and been behind us, you know, and the recent events, you know, I work with DC Public School Security. Of course, with the schools closing now, we are working, a lot of us are working recreation centers. And I'm one of the ones that's at a recreation center. Unfortunately, my pay rate dropped tremendously. That's something they said there's no SPOs that's working them sites, you know, and that's why they had to do it. You know, I had to continue to work, you know, I have to work. Unfortunately, I have to work 7 days a week, you know, and don't get me wrong, I'm not unappreciative of that, because you have some people that's not working, you understand? But I also want to express that with working at the recs, like if you don't have private transportation, the recs close at 9:30, we get off. But I'm on public transportation, so I'm allowed to leave at 8 o'clock. So when I leave my rec, I walk down a couple of blocks to the subway, and I do that because I'm so scared to get on the buses. Like I'm terrified to get on the buses. You know, have a couple of friends that tested positive. You know, I have a bus driver friend tested positive. And I'm terrified. You know, I have an underlying health issue, so I walk down, because in the subway, you can space yourself out a little bit more. And like if it's raining, whether or not, you know, I'll get in an Uber, but the prices of Uber and Lyft now, they like double. And where I work at now, a regular Uber would have been like $8 or $9. It's like $15, $16. And that's one way. And I'm saying that to say that that can hurt our pockets. That's hurt my pockets. I didn't say what it can do. That's what it has done. You know, it's just a lot of, and I just really want to be a part of this because the extra, for us to get to work, the $140, it might seem like a little to some, but when I tell you, it'll help us greatly. It really would. It really would.
Thank you, Officer Hatton.
Thank
I'll
you.
give Councilmember White an opportunity to respond about her story in the $14 per diem that officers are requesting.
I appreciate that, Officer Hatton. And I hear you on that concern. I have 2 young kids. I don't have any older family members who live with me, but I'm always worried not just about my safety, but the safety of the people who live with me. And myself, I wouldn't get on a bus right now. So I'd be making the same decisions that you are making. One thing I want to clarify though, you said your pay rate dropped?
Yes.
Why did your pay rate drop?
Because I was told by that where we working now, it doesn't require a SPO. It only requires an SO.
I see.
And so of course I couldn't not turn it down,
Yeah.
I had to take it.
Okay.
But of course I've had that pay rate for years.
Mhm.
So my income, that was my income. So bills, everything, my livelihood,
Based on that
you know,
income.
it surrounds that income. So if it's changing and I'm by myself,
Mhm.
so yeah, that makes a difference. It really does.
And so what's the requested travel per diem?
$14. The
Okay.
$14 daily travel per diem that the mayor afforded district employees back in March. Our members, district contractors, were denied that per diem.
Okay. So DC employees have a $14 a day travel per diem?
Correct. For the ones who have to report to work. Yes.
Okay. All right. Do you know what the dollar amount would be for applying that to contract workers?
We've asked for the same amount.
Okay, but you don't know like overarching, you don't know what this would cost 2 million, 5 million. We don't know that.
No, we can absolutely get that and follow up with your office.
Okay, that'd be helpful. I appreciate that.
I mean, so I think Councilmember, Ms. Hatton here is saying, not only did her pay rate drop, but now because she's afraid, as are you and many others, to take public transportation, she now has to pay Uber or Lyft to get her to and from work, which is much more expensive, and she doesn't get the per diem that district employees get. So I think that's the gist of that.
I heard that loud and clear. I appreciate that. Yeah, I heard that loud and clear, and I have it in my notes as well.
Thank you.
All right. So next we'll hear from Security Officer Foster, who's going to share her story in her fight for the HEROES Act, the federal hazard bill. Foster, the floor is yours.
Hello, good afternoon all. Hello, Councilman
Hello.
White, how are you? Hi, Jaime,
well.
Lewis, and everyone else on the call. I'm coming to you with my co-workers to let you know that we're frontline workers. I'm an asthmatic. I'm scared sometimes to come to work because you don't know what's in the air. You don't know if somebody's walking next to you that have it, getting out your car, going into the building. We are supplied masks. We did provide our own masks. However, how safe is this coming to work? How safe is it when we talk to a customer that comes up to the building? I have a special needs son who the first thing he does is when I come in the house is hug me. He can't do that no more because of this pandemic that has happened. It's a whole ritual before I'm even able to step into my door, take my uniform off, take my shoes off, make sure that I have everything that I had on prior to me coming all the way in the house. I have to take all of that off before I can even start my evening with my family and cook dinner, and get things together. You have to understand from our standpoint that if you have a previous existing condition and then you have this to worry about, that's not helpful to our health. It gives us a boost of anxiety. Being a single parent and I rely on my checks when they tell us that most of us are not needed at our work site. Thank God that I'm still here at mine. Some of us are losing our hours. Some of us are not here. That essential pay that we can get to make sure that people like us are still being treated fairly and treated equally to the grocery workers, to the nurses and the doctors, because they're just now starting to see how essential that security is. We're right in front of everybody before they get a chance to talk to anyone else. We deal with the riffraff when they come in the building. We have to calm them down and de-escalate them before they can even say anything like a hello. We don't know what that day is. They come at us and they talk directly in your face. And some people are very rude and disrespectful. So you got to be careful. The 6-foot rule don't apply to everybody. They don't want to listen to that. So we have to be extra careful. We're on a magnetometer. We have hand wands. And in some buildings, we have to still use those right now because we have visitors coming in. There's no way we can be 6 feet. So us making sure that we have that essential pay and making sure that we get that, that'll help us out a whole lot. And it'll help make sure that we're better taking care of our families. It goes a long way. Might not be much to many, like she said, but it's a lot to us, especially us on the front line.
Thank you, Foster. And we'll give Councilmember White an opportunity to respond to Foster, who's asking his support in our federal fight for the Federal Heroes Bill. As you know, that is held up in a Republican-led Senate, and we're looking for allies even in district government to support our fight for the Federal Heroes Act. Councilmember.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And so first of all, Foster, I do hear you, and that's been one of my concerns too. You know, I interact with security at the Wilson building. You know, I'm working remotely now, as you can tell, but I know kind of what they go through, and you do have to wand some people. Even if you do have a magnetometer, folks have to wand. But if the magnetometer goes down, and as you mentioned, some people, for mental health reasons or just because, everybody doesn't take the coronavirus issue seriously, for whatever reason, a lot of people don't respect the 6-foot rule. And some people are still walking around without masks, which puts you in the line of danger every day. And that hazard pay is, I think, the least we can do to show respect for people doing this hazardous work, very frankly. So on the Heroes Act, so you got allies on the council, you got allies in DC. What I'm working on now is building federal Republican allies. So I'm starting to reach out to people in my network who are kind of higher level Republicans to see if we can work together to push more of the Republican members of Congress, because those are the ones who are really holding this up, especially for DC. So I'm working to get them on board. I'm actively networking right now to try to build a coalition of Republicans. And Jaime and Louis, if you all know of any Republican high-level Republicans, don't necessarily have to be elected, just, local folks like Tom Davis is somebody who comes to mind. He's a Republican, but he's sensible. He might be able to help. Michael Steele comes to mind. He's, one of the few African-American Republicans. He actually graduated from the same high school I went to. But if you all think of other people like that or know of other people like that who might be, they're Republican, but they might be reasonable and might help us, let me know, because that would be helpful. But absolutely with you, Foster.
Okay. And I wanted to ground us in a second in our hazard pay or fight for the essential pay in the Heroes Act. Our Vice President has been leading that charge. Jaime?
Yeah, so I mean, just for the officers and members on the call, and for Councilmember White, and thank you for your words as well. mean, we're working very diligently in all the 11 states where 32BJ is, but also in the 50 states where SEIU is as well, and where we have members to pressure the Senate, which is where this thing is being held up now, to do right by workers on essential pay, which is included which is time and a half. It's included in the HEROES Act. Also, layoff protection, creating a fund for property service contractors, like the companies that you work for, to be able to apply to keep people on payroll, and also to mandate PPE at the federal level. So we're all working on all these fronts, on all this stuff. So I appreciate you making some calls as well. And yes, we're definitely reaching out to some of the more level-headed Republicans, if you will, who would listen, but also working through allies in some of the chambers and religious community as well, who have relationships that we don't as well. So we're hitting it in all fronts.
Thank you, Jaime. Next, we're gonna have Shop Steward Darius Collins come on to talk with Councilmember Wright about the challenging work conditions in this moment for Sam's office.
Hello, all. How you doing? How you doing, Jaime? How you doing, Councilmember? How you doing, Louis?
Doing well, thank you.
See you.
On behalf of myself and the union members, I just want to let you know, as far as everyone else know as well, that this pandemic has really hit us hard. It's hit us hard as a country, as a community, and it hit my comrades hard as well. Sir, I know a lot about you, seeing you on TV, and I know that you are a ally of 32BJ, and I appreciate that. I just want to let you know, from a personal standpoint, how the COVID-19 affects personally. I had COVID-19. I recovered from it. I suffered for 2.5 weeks, and it was terrible. I also lost a comrade of mine, Officer Jenkins, who worked at 1355 New York Avenue, where I work. That is the nexus. 1355 is the nexus of probably where the disease here in, I wouldn't say started in DC, however, how it expanded at my facility, which is a male homeless facility. You already touched on some of the safety matters and even some of the financial matters that we are being affected by because of the pandemic. So I just wanted to put it in a nutshell that, again, I appreciate all that you do and all that you will do further for us. And I just wanted to let you know that anything that you can do as far as our safety will be greatly, greatly appreciated, because we have been affected by it. We have officers who are afraid to come to work, not even on the monetary standpoint. They're just afraid to come to work simply because it's so scary. Yeah. In a nutshell, we are, as 32BJ, we mobilize. We mobilize for that which we believe in, and we mobilize in the hundreds. And sir, we are willing to mobilize for you and to any of your friends that are colleagues of yours that are willing to jump on the board and help us out. And that's pretty much all I have to say.
Thank you, Collins. We really appreciate that. I'll give Councilmember White an opportunity to respond to Special Police Officer Collins and his inquiry on safety and what is going to be done to keep Sam's officers safe, especially as the district government begins to open more. And then after that, we'll allow you to make any closing statements that you would like to make, Councilmember White. And then to close our call, we'll hear from our Vice President, Jaime Contreras.
First and foremost, Officer Collins, I'm glad you recovered. That's a scary thought. And I have to imagine going through it, it has to be really scary. And I'm very sorry to hear about your colleague, Officer Jenkins. You know, that's that's something we got to take seriously. That's somebody who died in service to the city, and we got to take that very seriously. We can't sweep that under the rug. On the issue of safety and folks being afraid to go to work, I completely get that. I would be too. And, you know, frankly, you know, I'm working from home because that's the safest thing to do. And I don't go out unless it's absolutely necessary. But let me ask this. So in addition to the transportation issue that Officer Hatton raised, and what can we do? And obviously, you know, I think that you know, working in conditions like this should come with a pay recognition of the danger. But what can we do to keep you and your fellow officers more safe, or at least to help you feel more safe in the work that you do?
Well, for one, the proper PPE will be greatly appreciated and much needed. Number two, temperature checks, things of that nature. Like, for example, you have the NBA is about to open up in Disney World in Orlando. And the one thing that they're implementing is temperature checks. Basically, just hit it up to the forehead, and then they will read the temperature of every patron or every person coming into the building. Phase 2 is being implemented, and there is going to be an influx of patrons and individuals, businesses about to be open, and that will be the most significant. I work again at 1355, which is run by Catholic Charities, and what they have done is they have placed a stone. It's like a 3-foot stone picture of stone where you can just come and get your hand sanitizer from it and then walk in the building. What that does is, of course, it's not going to keep someone from catching the virus, but what it does is it promotes, you know, okay, clean your hands, keep your mask on, things of that nature, you know, and all we need is little things like that. I mean, if you're going to get it, you're going to get it. But if we can mitigate it to a platform where that it's mitigated, that you may not get it, then yes, that's what we want to do. But those 3 things would be hand sanitizer, PPE, and the most significant would be the temperature checks.
Okay. What type of PPE do you receive now?
We receive now. We receive the face shields. We receive obviously the face masks, and we receive gloves.
Okay. And what would you like in addition to that?
In addition to that would be cleaner, bleach, all-purpose cleaner for our surfaces. I mean, those things are hard to come by. And we have a lot of our members that are, you know, walking to the Targets and the Walmarts just, you know, and spending their own dime just to pay for, you know, these products which are expensive. You know, yeah. At my facility, we go on Amazon, you know, to get our products because we can't get it in the Targets or the Walmarts, you know, which is coming out of our own pockets.
Okay, I appreciate that. And I'll be looking into that with Sam.
And Councilmember White, I'll also add that we have previously sent over suggestions and inquiries with the Department of General Services on physical barriers and CDC guidance that DGS can do and install inside of the building, and recommendations for social distancing and signage for at our security posts. So we'll share that information that we previously shared with the Department of General Services with you as well as a follow-up.
Please do.
Any closing?
So one, I really appreciate you all taking the time to chat through. I know that you all are already very busy, but hearing from you is very helpful, so I can understand your concerns and the issues that you're facing day to day helps me to advocate for you better and more accurately. So there are some follow-ups that I need to work on, including looking at the transportation stipend. As we've mentioned, we're going to work and continue to work on the federal funds for essential pay, hazard pay, and I need to follow up with, but I'll work with Louis and Jaime, follow up with Sam on the PPE issue, particularly on the cleaner. So we got some specific follow-ups. That's why conversations like this are helpful, because you all really are very clear about what the issues are, what your needs are, and so we can go work on that together. And I'm more than happy to do that. I really respect the work that you all do. I appreciate that you're doing it, because if you stop doing it, frankly, our city stops functioning. And so we have an obligation to make sure that we keep you safe as you're doing the work that you do. But thank you very much for everything you're doing. And I do want you all to stay safe, to be safe, and I want your families to be safe.
Thank you so much, Councilmember White. We'll close out our call for all those who have joined with our Vice President, Jaime Contreras.
Well, first of all, thank you, Louis. Thank you, council member. Thank you, members, for joining. We had over 225 members on this call today, which is great. These are all workers who work for SAM Security. So, Louis, thank you for your leadership on that as well. And obviously to the leaders on the call who were asking questions as well. You guys, please stay safe and keep your family safe as well. We'll get through this together as a union, as workers. We'll see the other side. Council member, thank you so much for your leadership and commitment to helping our members. To our members, this is a call with our council member with regards to PPE, with regards to hazard pay as well, which the city can do a lot about. But we're also fighting at the federal level for essential pay, for layoff protection, for federally mandated PPE. And property service workers like you, who are essential workers, are creating a huge momentum. We have placed over 100,000 emails, calls to senators and congressional people over the last couple of months to get the CARES Act passed, and now to get the HEROES Act passed in the Senate. It's not going to happen unless we push. And so we will be asking our members like you, but the rest of the other 20,000 members in this area and the 2 million members that SEIU has nationwide to continue to make phone calls, to continue to send emails, post on social media. Let's just flood the Senate offices and let them know that we're here and that they need to do right by workers in this country. So, like many other challenges that we have faced before, we will win at the end if we remain united and together. In our union, we say one union, one fight, but we also say when we fight, we win. So again, Louis, council member, and the members on this call, thank you for joining today. We look forward to continuing this fight together until we win. Take care.